biggest games, the best performances, expert analysis. You are Locked On Now.
You're listening to Locked On Now, local experts on the biggest stories around the NFL. I'm your host, Kim Becker, and thanks so much for making Locked On Now your first listen every weekday. On today's show, Week 9 in the AFC features big cross-conference games that could end up shaking the playoff picture across the NFL. As we hit the midway point of the regular season, let's start out with this week's biggest game.
The biggest game.
The Dallas Cowboys showed they are plenty dangerous with or without Dak Prescott last week, so the Denver Broncos will have to be ready to play no matter who they face under center for Dallas. Denver needs a win this week to stay a winning football team, and our Locked On Broncos host tells us how they'll get it done.
The Denver Broncos' biggest key to victory this week against the Dallas Cowboys, well, you know what? You have an Eastern time zone game. You got to get off to a hot start. You got to maintain it. I'm Cody Rourke, host of Locked On Broncos. And for the Denver Broncos, really a tough matchup. The number 6 ranked defense against the number 1 offense in the NFL. The Broncos defense against the Cowboys offense that features the return of Dak Prescott. And you have Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb. The Broncos have a growing defensive unit that I think not a lot of people should sleep on. So this might be a very interesting game, folks. But if the Broncos are going to come out on top, they have to be able to run the ball, maintain time of possession, and be efficient. You can't have consistent 3-and-outs. That has been the case the last 5 weeks.
Coming up next, we will go around the league to find out more keys to victory for the AFC with the help of our local Locked On NFL hosts. You're listening to Locked On Now. Welcome back to Locked On Now. I'm your host, Kim Becker, and thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every weekday. Now let's take a look around the league for more keys to victory in the AFC.
Let's go around the league.
The LA Chargers are trying to find their footing while in the midst of a 2-game losing streak. This week, Los Angeles heads to Philadelphia to face the Eagles, and Locked On Chargers tells us the key for LA to get back on track.
After dropping their last 2 games, the Chargers get another opportunity to get back into the win column this Sunday as they will take on the Philadelphia Eagles in their house. This is David Drogemeyer of the Locked On Chargers podcast, and your keys for success starting on offense is to get Justin Herbert back into a good passing rhythm. The best way to do that against the Eagles is to target their linebacking core. The Eagles linebackers have given up 98 receptions on 107 targets, which is good for 919 yards and 6 touchdowns. That's a completion percentage of over 91%. On defense, the key for success is to keep Jalen Hurts in the pocket and try to get pressure on him without using the blitz. Jalen Hurts has been sacked 14 times this year, but only 4 of those have come from blitzing. For more on the Los Angeles Chargers and this game, please check out Locked On Chargers, your team every day.
Something will have to give when the 1-7 Texans visit the 1-6 Dolphins Sunday. Houston hasn't won on the road this season, while Miami is still winless at home. Houston has a prime opportunity to pick up its second win, and here is Locked On Texans with the key on how they do it.
What's going on, everybody? It's John Hickman with the Locked On Texans podcast, bringing you the biggest question of the week for Houston, which I think it'll be how will the team move forward post-trade deadline. Now that Deshaun Watson has not been traded and securing a win against the very team you were in trade discussions with in the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins sit at 1-7 on the year. They have issues of their own. The Texans have an opportunity to get their first win since the opening week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the team may play Tyrod Taylor, in his first game back since getting hurt against the Cleveland Browns. The Dolphins are allowing 291 passing yards per game, the second worst in the league, along with being one of the league's worst turnover teams in the NFL. Despite Houston's last 4 performances in their last 4 games, the Miami Dolphin game is a game that's very winnable for this team and could be a statement for them as well, saying we have not given up on this season. Veterans like Brandon Cooks, your coaching staff, also need this win. Very important game on Sunday against the Miami Dolphins.
And while other teams in the AFC beat up on each other, the Pittsburgh Steelers have quietly won 3 games in a row going into Monday Night Football against the Bears. With a defense looking better than ever and Justin Fields looking more like a rookie than ever, Locked On Steelers tells us how Pittsburgh takes advantage.
I'm Chris Carter, host of the Locked On Steelers podcast, and here's your biggest key to victory for the Steelers to beat the Bears on Monday Night Football at Heinz Field. The Steelers' pass rush is for real. We know this with Cam Hayward, Alex Highsmith, and TJ Watt. But they're going up against a Bears offense that should allow them to eat. And that means you're going up against an offense that's giving up 12.6 sacks per pass play that they've called. That's the highest percentage in the NFL. And they also have a young quarterback in Justin Fields who, though athletic, is getting a little skittish when he's dealing with the pass rush. Fields is extremely athletic and can keep plays alive. But if the Steelers are able to both pressure him and contain him to stop him from having any escape lanes, it's going to make life hard for him. And he's still not put it all together to be able to escape plays while keeping his head up downfield to find open targets. If the Steelers stop the run, when the Bears do have the number 5 rushing offense in the NFL, and then get after Justin Fields, it'll be the biggest factor to them getting a win and their 4th straight win to keep it moving on their way getting back into the AFC North race. I'm Chris Carter, the Locked On Steelers podcast. Be sure to check us out. We're on Monday through Friday on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, and YouTube.
That's a wrap for us here at Locked On Now. Thanks so much for making us your first listen every weekday morning. And for more on the National Football League and your team, make your second listen Locked On NFL and your team's local Locked On podcast. I'm your host, Kim Becker, and this has been Locked On Now.